total federal control because they're nice people. And this is such a big deal that they have now come out in the news. Well, this information was leaked to us, so we're breaking it. But that they are now activating and saying, you've got to be on 72-hour standby. We're going to pay you to be ready to man the camps. And they're paid basically half the money just to sit there and be ready. And then even more once they man the camps. And it's a giant business. And Halliburton, of course, that's been caught running slave camps. Chicago Tribune reported on that. All over the world. And they just grab locals, Philippines, you name it, just put them in camps. Making bricks, aluminum, you name it. I mean, this is literally a devilish group. Halliburton and KBR. And they've been chosen to be the master camp operators. And they help set up camps in Iraq and Afghanistan. And they're setting up that same system. They got giant armies of military that are now cops that are here, ready to do it. Ready to retina scan you at that checkpoint, check who you really are, ready to load you on that truck. Okay, and you need you to put your hands behind your back. We're going to send you in for some questioning. And then they don't have to worry. I don't know where he's going. Just get on down the road. This is the government we have. And if you don't think they're not planning it, think again. They've always hated America. The globalists have always wanted to take us down, and it's on. So we need to get these articles out to everybody. Detention camp order follows preparations for civil unrest. It's all admitted. KBR seeks subcontractors to outfit emergency environment centers. And we have the other one, exclusive government activating FEMA camps across the U.S. This is so important. I'm going to spend about 15 minutes with Tarpley on this subject when we come back, because he's an expert on it as well. Before we get into Pearl Harbor 70 years later, then Chief Arte Saveda, Austin Police Chief, is going to be in studio. By the way, over here, where this is going to end on Christmas, and if you order by the 19th, it's guaranteed delivery to you. All 18 of my films on DVD and bumper stickers, Citizen Rulebook, and more, $99.95. That's 70% off, a $260 discount. Get them, get the word out to everybody. All right, Webster Griffin Tarpley, who's a historian and also economist, frequent contributor to the show, has been researching for years and writing a book that isn't out yet on Pearl Harbor, its 70th anniversary. And we're going to speak, coming up in about 20 minutes, with Webster about Pearl Harbor. And then I'm going to open the phone up for World War II vets. Now, there's not many of those great men and women, some of them left, but if you can get involved on air, we're going to open the phones up just for you after Tarpley gets into some of the basics of Pearl Harbor and parallels that we see today. But going to Webster, I'm springing this on you because it's breaking, and a lot of times when something's this big, I end up just canceling guests till the next day. But I wanted to have you on because you could speak to this. We got quasi-secret documents, and we've confirmed them, from KBR, Kellogg Brown and Root, subsidiary of Halliburton, who admittedly runs camps all over the world. Right. And we know that 6 years ago they got the $386 million contract for 3 1 million man camps. Source on that, Wall Street Journal. Now I've been sent something, we're breaking it, where they're now getting ready to man them, the big camps and the little camps. And it says barricades, barbed wire, jail, the jail guards, the food services, for a collapse. And it's huge news. We're trying to punch it out there to everybody. You see the NDAA passing where they could secretly arrest citizens, use the military. I mean, classical, off-the-chart authoritarianism. We see just all the military accelerations. I mean, things are going into high gear. But the fact that they're actually putting out the contracts to now man the camps, I mean, is this not incredible, Webster? What does this signify to you that they're saying 72-hour notice, these people are paid lavish amounts, subcontractors, to be ready to provide this to the master company, KBR, within 72 hours? I'm not saying it's going to happen in 72. They're now signing up to always be ready. What does that sound like to you, Webster?
Well, we know that we're in a depression. We are in this terrible breakdown crisis or disintegration of the world economy. Last week, on Wednesday, we came close to blowing out the entire thing. We had 3 big Euro zombie banks, reportedly Commerzbank of Germany, Unicredito of Italy, and one French bank, maybe Société Générale, maybe Crédit Agricole, it's not known. But this has been reported by reliable European sources. And that joint action of the 6 central banks you saw last week, right? The U.S., the Europeans, Japan, Canada, Britain, Switzerland, all making it easier for zombie banks to borrow money, was in response to the fact that the bottom was about to fall out. And now we have Merkel and Sarkozy trying to ram through this lunatic austerity corset, as they call it in Britain. It's a kind of a straitjacket that says everybody has to have a balanced budget or thereabouts. And of course, this is a very evil plan. So remember, we're always in this three phase problem: depression leading to dictatorship, leading to then the war, and we're seeing the dictatorship and the war come in at the same time.
And that's the pattern of history. It always happens. People marvel that you and I and others have accurately, Ron Paul, predicted things, but this is the course of human events.
Yeah, except you can stop it. Except there's nothing fatal about this. There is no destiny at any point, up until the point of total dictatorship, I suppose. You can intervene in this and stop the crash. There's nothing sacred about the crash. What has to happen to a depression? You have to fight it. And we know how to do this. We know from our experience in the 1930s and 1940s. We know from New Deal, Lend-Lease, and other things.
The point is, Webster, even if you're right about that political and financial strategy, it's not going to be implemented. They want the collapse. They want to use the collapse to reorganize society along the eugenics model, and they're going to do it. So the question is, what do we...
Maybe the news of these concentration camps will shake through a couple of...
Exactly. So I want to break the concentration camps down with you. Then we'll get into 70 years yesteryear, because those that don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Doctor of History, Webster Griffin Tarpley, is our guest. Tarpley.net, GCNlive.com. Okay, Doctor of History, also economist, Webster Tarpley, joins us for the balance of the hour. We're going to get into 70 years after the tragic events of Pearl Harbor, what really happened there. He's been researching it for years. There's a book coming out on the subject. Then Austin Police Chief Arte Saveda is scheduled to be in here. In fact, he'll be here soon. Here's the big headline at Infowars.com. Exclusive: government activating FEMA camps across the United States. A project overview and anticipated project requirements. The same subsidiary of Halliburton that got the 1 million man camp funding. This all ties into the Emergency Centers Establishment Act. It sets up fencing, barricades, and prepares teams all over the country to be on 72-hour notice to activate and staff the camps. So they just sit there on standby and are waiting. This is a major escalation, right as the global depression comes in, right as the economies melt down, right as the bankers and the zombie banks get more power out of the crisis they created. And this also dovetails with the other article by Paul Joseph Watson. Detention camps order follows preparations for civil unrest. The U.S. government, the British government, we have links to that, are in the news saying they're getting ready for civil unrest. Oh, they've passed a law where the army can operate and arrest whoever they want for any reason. And they say activism, protesting is terror. What did Kennedy say? Those that make peaceful political activity illegal make violence.
You make revolution inevitable.
Yeah, so it's making revolution inevitable. KBR seeks subcontractors to outfit emergency environment centers. And it's for political, it's for environmental. I mean, this is such a giant escalation. We can see it everywhere, Webster. What's your view on this?
Well, I would say, first of all, what to do about it is why doesn't Ron Paul and Congressman Kucinich or some combination like that, something that a bipartisan group, why can't we get a resolution in the House of Representatives condemning preparations under Obama for domestic dictatorship and make some noise about that? The other thing to do is, you have these Republican candidates campaigning in Iowa and New Hampshire, and if people are there, this is a golden opportunity to confront them. Hey, Hey, Newt Gingrich, what do you think about concentration camps? Hey, Romney, what do you think about them? Hey, Bachmann, hey, Santorum, hey, all of them, right? What do you think about them? Give Ron Paul a chance to say something about it and condemn it. In other words, let's get a political campaign going, and let's also make sure that international attention is called to this, right? That people in the world should know that the concentration camps are being readied. Perhaps one other thing, right, to segue into Pearl Harbor. You know, the question of the Japanese being rounded up, the Japanese, the Nisei so-called, the Japanese Americans, particularly in the West Coast states, California and so forth, that was ordered really not by Roosevelt, but by a guy called Colonel Henry Stimson. And his friend was John J. McCloy. Now, once I've said these two names, Stimson and McCloy, I have identified the leaders, the deans of the Wall Street faction in the 1930s, 40s, into the 60s, and even the 70s. And it was in particular Stimson, acting on advice of McCloy, who said to Roosevelt, you are going to put concentration camps up, and you're going to put the Japanese in them. And this, of course, you have to remember, these people are Republicans. In other words, they're people that Roosevelt brought into the government in June of 1940 after the fall of France. He wanted to have a national unity government, a bipartisan government. So he had to invite in these Republican Wall Street guys who ran the Pentagon, in effect, the War Department. They were not creatures of Roosevelt. They were Wall Street guys, and they acted as Wall Street guys always did. This is the group that's responsible for dropping the atomic bomb. Roosevelt, of course, dead by that time.
And Webster, let's expand. The National Japanese American Group's head has come out and condemned the NDAA and the camps that are being built. We haven't gotten a response now that this came out. I mean, things are certainly escalating, but this shows that the establishment thinks the total collapse is right around the corner. It's one thing to build all these camps and have them mothballed sitting there. That's bad enough. Now, for the first time ever, they're saying, okay, these aren't bids to build them. These are bids to man them. I mean, I don't think people out there realize the magnitude. And I agree with you. Everybody needs to go to their police chiefs, their county commissioners, their sheriffs. They need to go to all of them and point out, okay, they're passing laws that the Army can be used. They can secretly arrest us. Obama's lawyers, say, we're not going to sign that because we're going to veto it because Obama doesn't need Congress to do this. But we do agree we can still do it. The Army admitting they're ready for domestic operations, the TSA running checkpoints. I mean, clearly they're getting ready to try to clamp down on the population, just like it's happening in Europe. And most economists, Webster, say the U.S. is worse off than Europe once the collapse comes here. And they think that they can ride this dragon, this tiger that they've created. But great ideas. We've got to make a major movement out of this and say, look, I mean, this one article that Kurt Nimmo and I wrote last night, it breaks down all the admissions, the bills, the Congress, the maps, where they're at. It's total proof that this is going on. And you add it to all this other stuff and the Japanese group in America coming out and warning. I mean, this is so serious. What does this signify for you, though, Webster, that they are going ahead and now moving to man the camps?
Well, this is that three-phase progression that we saw in the 1930s. And as long as you have protracted depression, getting worse as the phases go on. Unless you stop the depression, there's really very little you can do about this other stuff. Naturally, we want to do a lot in terms of denouncing the totalitarianism and the dictatorship. How about getting a committee of distinguished people, right? Emergency committee against dictatorship in the United States, and try to get bipartisan, writers, scientists, humanitarians, college presidents. Who knows, right? Who knows what you can get? Have a white paper that's drawn up, right? The actual. I think what's been missing is really a book about concentration camps in the U.S. in our time. I'm not sure that story has.
He's going to be in studio. By the way, over here, where this is going to end on Christmas, and if you order by the 19th, it's guaranteed delivery to you. All 18 of my films on DVD and bumper stickers, Citizen Rulebook, and more, $99.95. That's 70% off, a $260 discount. Get them, get the word out to everybody. All right, Webster Griffin Tarpley, who's a historian and also economist, even more once they man the camps. and it's a giant business. And Halliburton, of course, that's been caught running slave camps. Chicago Tribune reported on that all over the world. And they just grab locals, Philippines, you name it, just put them in camps, making bricks, aluminum, you name it. I mean, this is literally a devilish group, Halliburton and KBR. And they've been chosen to be the master camp operators. And they helped set up camps in Iraq and Afghanistan. The globalists have always wanted to take us down, and it's on. So we need to get these articles out to everybody. Detention camp order follows preparations for civil unrest. It's all admitted. KBR seeks subcontractors to outfit emergency environment centers. And we have the other one, exclusive government activating FEMA camps across the U.S. This is so important. I'm going to spend about 15 minutes with Tarpley on this subject when we come back, because he's an expert on it as well. Before we get into Pearl Harbor 70 years later, then Chief Arte Saveda, Austin Police Chief, total federal control, because they're nice people. And this is such a big deal that they have now come out in the news. Well, this information was leaked to us, so we're breaking it. But that they are now activating and saying, you've got to be on 72-hour standby. We're going to pay you to be ready to man the camps. And they're paid basically half the money just to sit there and be ready and then stand. And they're setting up that same system. They got giant armies of military that are now cops that are here, ready to do it. Ready to retina scan you at that checkpoint, check who you really are, ready to load you on that truck. Okay, then you need you to put your hands behind your back. We're going to send you in for some questioning. And then they don't have to worry. I don't know where he's going. Just get on down the road. This is the government we have. And if you don't think they're not planning it, think again. They've always hated America.